Good evening, everyone. Welcome. I call the City Council Committee of the Whole meeting for Wednesday, September 4th to order. A lot of things going on, so a moment of silence to think about whatever it is you want to think about. Thank you. If you'd all please stand and join Alderman Grip in leading us all in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Alderman Grip. Mr. Krupp, please call the roll for tonight.
Ardon.
Here.
Kelly.
Here.
McGinnis.
Here.
Reinhardt.
Present.
Grip.
Here.
Newton.
Here.
Lynch.
Here.
T-Dunn.
Here.
Jobson. And Burkholder.
Here.
10 present, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. So good evening and welcome, everyone. As we begin the meeting of the City Council Committee of the Whole, I'd like to welcome everybody in attendance and anybody who's watching through any particular electronic device. Respectfully welcome your opinions and comments, but please keep in mind that as you share your thoughts, you're sharing them with all your fellow Davenporters and anybody throughout the region. We're happy you're participating in your city government and ask that your participation please reflect the common desire we all share to make Davenport a better place. As a reminder for the folks in here, if you'd be kind enough to put your cell phone on silent or turn it off, simply it doesn't get in the way of anybody talking. If you'd like to address the council on any particular item, wait to be recognized and by the chair, and then come to the podium. The microphone's above you. I'd love to know your name, order, address, and if you're not from here, we'd love to know where you're from. Please address the council as a body and not as any individual. We will be respectful of you. Please be respectful of us. Thank you. Is there a city administrator update, Ms. Gleason?
Just one small item. As you're aware, FEMA did approve individual assistance related to the flood and the tornado/derecho from July 15th. They are mobilizing and will be on site. They're actually going to be utilizing our former Fire Station 3 office area while they're here approximately 1 to 2 weeks. So if you had any residents impacted by that, we can help share that information.
Thank you very much. All right, we have 3 public hearings this evening, all under Public Works. Alderman Rick Dunn and Alderman Kelly will discuss. Alderman Rick Dunn, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Open the public hearing on the plan, specification, form of contract, and estimated costs for the Goose Creek Trail Phase 3 project. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this public hearing? Please step forward.
Derek Cornett, 7th Ward. I'm concerned about the budget for this thing. It was supposed to be $4 million. I think we pretty much used that up. I don't know if we're going to get to the dedicated opening of this trail under budget or even near budget. I'd like to hear from somebody on staff as to what that's about. The next thing about Phase 3 is the people that live there have not been kept informed of what's going to happen. For 2.5 years now, those people have been in limbo, waiting for, Public Works or whomever to tell them what's going to happen to their property. They've been waiting. You tell them you're going to take their land, and then that's not right. Then you're going to, we're going to do this. Well, okay, you got bushes to keep the people on the bike path from looking at you, which is fine. But they want to know how this is going to, when you dredge the creek there, how's that going to affect the flood zone? How's that going to affect their property when it does flood? And I know that everybody's sitting there going, well, we've modeled it, but, modeling things in this day and time doesn't mean that you got the true thing. We keep having over-model, like the 1,000-year flood, the 100-year flood every other week. So, I don't think modeling really takes everything into consideration. So please help these people out. Continue this on discussion and let's see if we can get some people made happy. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hi, my name is Wendy Bartels, 7th Ward. I will be speaking on the bike path expansion phase that extends from Kimberly Road to 33rd Street. Goose Creek is pretty much in my backyard. For those of you not familiar with this area, the setup is our property, some land, the creek, some property, then the railroad tracks. This bike path conversation has been going on for a few years now. I believe it was voted on and passed in 2021. However, our neighborhood did not find out about it until April of 2022, when we received letters stating our property was needed for temporary access to build this. That's when we started asking questions and heavily objecting to this. We were then told the path would be on the other side of the creek, as the property lines actually were located in the creek due to erosion. Then comes spring of 2023, and here we go again. The path will now be placed a few feet from our property lines and the creek. One property will have it 1 foot away from their property line. Our main concern is the flooding. Yes, we live in a flood zone and are in the highest rated area. Yes, we expect flooding now and again, but what we didn't expect is for the flood maps to increase the area out for being a higher risk for flooding. Those maps were passed by council earlier this year. We have been told that the bike path won't fix the flooding and we will still flood, as this is about the bike path and not the flood zone. I get that. But what we see, FEMA has said this area is more at risk for flooding and has extended the projected affected areas. Going back there and changing the creek and cramming a bike path back there after people are receiving a new bill for flood insurance is just insulting. The idea of moving the creek has been planned out on a computer program. Sure, computers are great, but not always correct. My main concern is that the creek will be straightened out just south of our property. If this fails and backs up, it will be in our basement. It was said recently that the water in our homes is coming directly from the creek, but we also have to factor in the field behind our house that holds a lot of water. I asked that the field was factored into this program. I was asked, what field? The Walgreens property that you got by condemnation. That got me thinking, what other factors have not been considered in all of this? We could flood more often, we could flood differently. Will Public Works step up if this happens, or will we be dismissed because we are in a flood zone? And if we're all about fixing the creek and giving people their yards back, why wasn't that done before? We tend to back up from the bridge on 33rd Street. Debris gets caught, creates a dam, and the water comes out of the banks. The bridge is supposed to be on a regular schedule for clean out. However, when it's carrying debris from upstream during flooding, that won't matter too much. The bridge is not on the plan to be fixed to help alleviate the issue. One concern from the neighborhood is the resale of our homes. We are told that the houses near bike paths are very desirable. There has been a house on the market for 2 months. Houses near the bike path may be desirable. However, I'm thinking houses right up against the bike path are not wanted as much. I would never choose this for my family. However, moving would be expensive for us. We've been in our home for 20 years. The prices of houses have increased extensively and the interest rates have almost tripled from what we have on our mortgage. Safety is another concern for us. My husband is thinking ahead to the possibility of theft and break-ins. With the increase of foot traffic by our home, we will see more crimes in our neighborhood. I do agree with him at this point. Another safety concern is if this is not set up correctly and we flood, what happens when the weather sirens go off? Where do we go? The tornado that came through Davenport a few weeks ago was close enough to cause concern. We would be left without our shelter. These concerns have been talked about for 2 years. It's all been acknowledged and then dismissed. My neighbor feels that this is like fitting a square peg in a round hole. I think if this is the perfect description of what is happening. If FEMA turned down this project and another plan would have come about, I'm wondering what that plan would have been. I've said this before and I will say this again. This is not your best work. When you start obtaining property through condemnation and moving creeks, you are trying too hard to make something fit where it just doesn't belong. Do better for your citizens. Please put this on discussion. Thank you.
Anyone else? And before I close this public hearing, I just want folks to know that this is an action item on the Public Works agenda. And when we have public hearings, it's not a time for us to answer questions or anything like that. So it will be coming up again. You'll have another chance. So seeing that, I move to close the public hearing. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. This public hearing is closed. Open the second public hearing on the plan, specification, form of contract, and estimated cost for the Emize Park Phase 2 Adaptive and Inclusive Playground Project. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item? Seeing none, I move to close the public hearing. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. This public hearing is closed. I open the third public hearing on the plan, specification, form of contract, and estimated cost for the Main Street Landing Project. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this public hearing? Please step to the lectern, state your name, ward.
Judith Lee, Second Ward. This park has never had a go, no-go vote on it, as publicly confirmed by former City Administrator Spiegel. We've just been creeping through the resolutions providing funding for park designs, just like we did for the two-way conversion. Please table this until we get more details and the maintenance costs and funding sources are available in detail. Once again, I believe that the mayor and staff are hiding necessary information from council and the public without any authority to do so. More violations of open meeting laws. This is another hearing that is a waste of the public's and council's time. Now, with that said, I've got some comments, and if I don't finish, I'll come back when it's on the agenda. It appears that critical thinking on the part of staff and the contractor appears to be missing, particularly related to costs and engineering. First of all, access to the park during flooding from the information that was provided to us. There's no access to the park and the overpass entry somewhere between flooding at 18 and 19 feet, where water covers about a quarter of the park at 18 feet, and Quinlan Court is fully flooded at that point. I would predict that 18 and 19-foot flood levels will become more common moving forward. Almost everything except the very high points are flooded at 20 feet, and none of it accessible. 2, the lack of engineering. We all know that before the 30s, everything between the railroad tracks and the river was simply stuff dumped in there and a river wall built. So that river wall is almost 100 years old itself. This entire site needs a geotechnical survey before you start grading and construction. It's unconsolidated fill dumped when the seawall was built, which, if the city excavation for the flood mitigation at Heritage Park is any indication, would be unstable and unengineered soil mixed with rubble, concrete, bricks, and other debris. The recent B&K Geotech report for River Heritage Park and the 2021 Terracon Geotech report for Veterans Memorial Park indicate that the park area may have the same types of problems identified in those reports, as the fill was placed at about the same time. It would have to be excavated and the soil replaced and engineered, compacted specific ways to avoid frost heaving, groundwater destabilization, and other concerns with construction and maintenance of underground infrastructure, sewer, water, and electrical facilities, which are going to be needed, and above-ground pavement and infrastructure stability, especially with constant flooding, destabilizing it over and over. The new sewer line to I-280 has already had many expensive change orders because the city did not conduct a geotech survey, and the soils were not appropriate for the type of construction that was being needed. 2,300 tons of soil mixed with dump debris was excavated to the landfill from 2 limited areas in Vets Memorial Park. I do not know if it was because it was unstable, potentially contaminated, or both. A geotech survey is critical for all the heavy infrastructure intended for the park, including berms, playground equipment, the flex park, and the towers. I can provide interested council members copies of the reports, including the appendices. 3, estimated costs. The cost of staff, supplies, equipment, and services have been estimated by the city to be approximately $400,000 a year. There's no estimate for annual maintenance costs or flood cleanup. Clay made the comment that staff may need to be on site to provide services to the public for the park, but he did not elaborate. How much would it cost to change the pickleball courts to sand volleyball to ice rink and back? Multiple times a year? How much would the sand cost to purchase, deliver, install, and remove, including tipping fees? By the way, you cannot have multiple pickleball courts without fencing around each one. Doesn't work. How much will snow removal cost at the park, especially shoveling snow by hand from all the stairs that seem to be placed all over the park according to the drawings? And this is supposed to be open in the winter because it's going to be an ice rink. The city states that the operational maintenance funds would be derived by local sales tax. How is that money currently used? What other services in the city, especially downtown, would be foregone as tax revenue is diverted to pot ARPs at almost $500,000 annually? Would a tax increase be required? Where would the funds come from annual maintenance? How about for flood recovery? It's a complex park with lots of vegetation. The surface infrastructure may be resilient, but it still needs to be cleaned and the vegetation replanted after floods. How much will enforcement cost? If the overpass is wide enough to turn a utility vehicle around, how will other motorized vehicles be kept off that overpass? Enforcement may need to be increased, especially since the park is intended to be open at darkness. Or why the fancy lighting in the picture we were shown? We also have seen that where that person was killed in the parking lot, those people have been doing motorcycle and muscle cars for years. Do you think they don't think this is going to be fun, especially wide enough? They'll be up there. Alderman Dunn and myself were assured several times by staff that sufficient money from the $24 million be put aside for annual maintenance and flood cleanup, but I'm not hearing anything about that now. I request that Alderman Dunn ask staff again the status of the fund to be set aside for maintenance and flood cleanup, not part of Parks' budget. They don't have it. So I'm going to say the rest of my comments when it comes up on the agenda. But I really have concerns, and the fact that we have not done a vote, no vote on this, I don't even know what you're voting on next week. It's not clear what the scope of it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hey, Gary Eklund, I live in Davenport. I want to speak in complete and total opposition to this. Over the last several years, since the city made me start paying attention again, I see almost not a penny spent for the bottom half of the city. Nothing. Housing, amenities, nothing. You get sewer taxes, you get Nazis, but you get nothing. This looks like a complete and total waste of money. I thought, if I understand right, there's going to be a big, nice boat ramp so that wealthy people who, as they say, winter in Texas, or they winter in the islands, or they winter in Florida, when they come back home, they can get their boat, put their boat in their yard, and on Sunday afternoon, or when they've got a week or 2 weeks or 5 weeks, if you're a department head, 5 weeks vacation, you can hook up your boat and go down to the taxpayer finance boat ramp and have a nice Sunday afternoon, or Monday afternoon if you have 5 weeks paid vacation, Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Hell, you could spend a week. Hell, you could spend 5 weeks on the Mississippi if you're a city department
Mr.
head.
Eklund,
Yes, sir.
please stick to the topic.
To me, this looks like a complete waste of money. I mean, I think the people who can afford their boats can afford to join the marina or join the whatever thing, or go to, Rock Island, or they already have a boat ramp. And I'm one of the people who is old enough to remember the natatorium or the working man's bathhouse or LeClaire Pool. And some of you may think I'm crazy with my obsession with race when it comes to City Hall down here. But when the LeClaire Pool was torn down, I heard business people with business interests downtown saying they didn't like seeing all the black children come to the
Mr.
LeClaire
Eklund,
Pool.
could you please stick to the topic?
Well, I'm saying instead of spending this money on this boat ramp for rich people, let's rebuild the working man's bathhouse and put in sprinklers, something that's simple and easy and can be flooded. I agree. When you're talking about the floodplain, we have a disagreement about the I want to say Hesseltine. I know that's the guy that was down here with the dog and not the barriers, HESCO barriers. you know, like to me, I would never put in the HESCO barriers. They gave people a false sense of security. And the thing is if you buy, you know, if you built a house right now where that old hot dog stand stood, or maybe still stands, if you build a house there, you don't expect the city to build you a wall around your house and protect you from flooding. You built this house on the river 5 feet away from it. It's gonna flood. Everything you're talking about here is gonna flood. And the thing about floodplains, you know, like I'm not an urban planner, I'm not a whatever, you know, don't even have a college degree. Imagine that. Planning ahead says, if this floods every 5 years and completely floods this deep every 20 years, you know this is gonna flood every 5 years. And so you build it so that you can come in and you can mop up and you can wipe down and you can sweep out and then go and then start over again. You don't build things that need all kinds of maintenance and control in a floodplain. And we're talking about a floodplain. And it just makes no sense. We have so many other needs. One idea for that money that they could be spent on tomorrow. I looked at the police station last week and I thought, where could 2 outdoor bathrooms go? 2 24-hour-a-day with running water bathrooms so that homeless people and other people walking down the street could stop and use the toilet. And yeah, maybe they use a washcloth and wash under their arms or whatever. You know, I'm not talking about showers, I'm just talking about a flushing toilet. And yes, city staff would have to clean that, and I respect the janitors a lot. They work hard for a living. But you could take some of that money and you could build over on the police station on the 4th Street side, so it'd be right next to the police station, so you could have 24-hour-a-day surveillance, and anybody going to that bathroom would know they're going to the police station, and if they've got a warrant, they could get arrested because they're right at the police station. But you could have 24-hour-a-day bathrooms. You could take a tiny slice of that money and put in 2 24-hour-a-day bathrooms there. And people who are just walking down the street are homeless people, you know, who pay taxes, and probably a lot of them used to work, you know, maybe still do. You can work at minimum wage and be homeless. That's how minimum wage is here. I just think this thing is a complete waste of money. And I happen to like the LeClaire pool. I happen to like the showers. You could rebuild it exactly. I'm sure they have the specifications. You could rebuild the LeClaire pool. You could rebuild the showers. You could rebuild the thing, every single thing to match equally. And then in addition to that, you could put in a play area where it's just a big open field with lots of sprinklers and kids could run through that. And then if you wanted to build tennis courts or something, you know, that wouldn't have to be taking a lot of maintenance. Plus, I mentioned before, I'm in the process of designing what I'm calling the Davenport Hotel 324 Main Street Memorial Park. It won't cost a lot of money. It'll just cost a little bit of money. But then ideally that would be city owned, and you know, all you would have to do is, you know, water the plants and whatever. But we should be planning ahead for city owned Davenport Hotel 324 Main Street. Right now, I believe that property is valued at $100,000 or something like
Mr.
that.
Eklund, could you get back on the topic, please?
Yes, sir. This, to me, is a complete waste of money for rich people when rich people are already doing well enough. And if you're lucky enough to be able to winter in Florida or winter in the islands, when you come back, we shouldn't be building your boat ramp for you. There's other boat ramps you can use. And like I say, I just think this is a complete and total waste of money. And there are other court cases. I don't know how many lawsuits are currently against Davenport right now, but I assure you there are multiple other court cases coming, and I don't mean just by me. So there should be some thought about where the money is going to come to pay the lawyers and pay the judgments and pay the settlements or whatever, because I am not the only one. There's other crimes committed against other people by city staff members.
Mr. Eklund,
Well,
back to the topic, please.
I'm trying to address the money issue because there's a lot of money here. And money, like, what do they say? Money is fungible, which means, you know, like if you spend $10 on cigarettes, that means you can't spend $10 on hamburgers because you just spent your $10 on cigarettes. If you spend $24 million on this park, and then you get a $24 million judgment in a court case due to criminal conduct by city staff members, then you don't have that $24 million to pay it. So I'll sit down, but I just think that the city of Davenport really, in my mind, they should have hired, after 324 Main Street collapsed, they should have hired a professional investigator to investigate the city staff's behavior from top to bottom.
Mr. Eklund,
And
getting off topic again.
before committing to financially expensive projects, they should get their house in order. You know, like right now, I wouldn't make plans to go buy a new Ferrari because my house financially is not in order. You know, I shouldn't be trying to say, oh, $200,000 for a Ferrari, you know, at 25% interest, you know, maybe I could sign that right now. That wouldn't make any sense. Because I'm this close to dying in my car, that close to dying in my car right now. And so buying a new Ferrari, and this is like the city of Davenport saying, never mind all these bills, never mind all these lawsuits, never mind all this crime by city employees. Let's buy a new Ferrari at 25% interest because we can spend $24 million and the rich people will be happier. Anyway, I'm going to sit down. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Derek Cornett, 7th Ward. I would like to know if you guys have voted on the design work for this park. The company was supposed to supply us with 3 versions so we could choose. I haven't seen them. Have we voted on them? I haven't heard about them in, council meetings. So where is that work? What are we gonna have them build on if we haven't even decided what the design type is? There's just too many questions on this project. I know that all you guys want your name on a big plaque down there saying park built by city council, blah, blah, blah. But this is gonna be a travesty. We don't have the money to maintain it. That was one of the big things that I was always worried about. And everybody says, oh, it's no problem. Cleaning it up after floods, not a problem. We can just pull that money out, not a problem. Well, I don't think you can. And I think, you've been smoking some funny cigarettes if you think the city's going to be able to keep being taxed to afford your non-planning for such things. There you go.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Lakana Dixon, 7th Ward. I'm wondering how much thought has been put in this park when I know for sure that you guys have had to see all the homeless people downtown. I hope you have, because I've seen a dramatic change. Even just coming across the bridge, to going up the hill, to coming here, to going home. Like, people are out there with carts and tents. And I don't even know how they lug this stuff around. So you're on built this beautiful park. I hope it's beautiful, because as he said, we haven't seen the designs yet. But are you prepared for people to be down there sleeping in it? So which part is the bigger picture? Taking care of the people or having a beautiful park? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. And that concludes the public hearings. Your Honor, back to you.
Thank you, Alderman Dunn, Alderman Kelly. Next is petition communications from anyone. Council folks, Alderman Tim Dunn.
Yeah, I'll be hosting a 1st and 2nd Ward meeting on September 10th at the newly opened Fairmount Community Center from 6 to 7 p.m. I hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Kelly.
Thank you. I'll be hosting a block party on 9/14 on the corner of Main and Locust. It will be from 4 to 9 p.m. It'll have food vendors, folks selling their wares, whatever. Anybody's welcome. Thank you. Once again, I'll have a block party on 9/14 from 4 to 9 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderwoman Newton.
Thank you, Mayor. At the management update yesterday, we received some dates for future discussion or work sessions. One of them was in regards to the council rules of order, at which said time I have expressed concerns that I have on the council rules and the urgency for having such. I just wanted to make sure my colleagues were aware that after discussions, they have changed the date. I believe it'll now be September 17th at 3:45 for us to have our first or further discussion, I should say, on council rules of order and decorum. There's obviously there's parts of a 2015 resolution that do appear to be gray, or at least upon advice of different legal counsel is gray. So in my opinion, having council rules that are crystal clear, black and white, would be in the best benefit of the best interest of the city and of the people. And I do believe that it's a discussion that we need to have, and that if there's a need to amend or revise or pass a new set of rules, that such should be done so by this council. So I look forward to that discussion, and I just wanted my colleagues to be aware of that change, because it is a slight change from the dates that we were provided from yesterday's management update. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderwoman McGinnis.
Thank you very much. Just a couple of things. It's July 4th all over again this weekend. Red, Right, and Boom, which we were not able to hold, and there was a lot of, I heard comments, why don't we do it at the fairgrounds? But this is with our sister city, Rock Island, that it's a joint celebration, and it is going to be this Saturday, September 7th. The fun starts, there's live music at 5:30 at our band shell, Identity Crisis Band. There is a kids zone also, and this is free. All these things I'm telling you are free. Kids zones, a free event from 5:30 to 8:30. And then there will also, not free for sale, but food vendors as well. And then the fireworks start at 9:30. Our sister city over at Schwiebert Riverfront, food vendors are there. There is a band called Corporate Rock from 6 to 9 p.m. and also a kids zone over there. So I hope that you can come down and enjoy. There are many places to view the fireworks other than the parks. But again, this joint venture and it's going to be, the temperature right now says 67 degrees. So it's going to be a lot more comfortable than it probably was July 4th as well. So I hope you can come down and celebrate that on September 7th. And just another reminder that the Gold Coast Home Tour is September 14th and 15th from 12 noon to 4 p.m. It is 5 houses. It is a Robbie Wolf's man cave or mantiques and things at the old Carl Cleve. Get a chance to look at the new Project Renewal building, and you can contact me or just show up at, there's information online at www.davenportgoldcoast.com. If you're interested in volunteering, let me know. We can still use some docents, and we have, you get a free ticket to the tour and things like that. So in any case, that's going on, and that's September 14th and 15th. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Alderman Grip.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have 2 things this evening. The first thing is an update from the city administrator search the special committee. We met last week and we went over the list of candidates that were brought to us. And taking a look at those candidates, the committee decided on 5 finalists to come to Davenport and do interviews next week. So as I have previously announced, Monday night, September 9th, there will be a meet and greet for the public for the candidates. There will be interviews throughout the day on Monday and on Tuesday, and we are one step closer to hopefully naming our next city administrator. So if you are able to join us next Monday evening to meet the candidates, we sure would like to see a good public reception there. The second thing is I wanted to give a little shout out and credit to our Parks Department and Red Hawk Golf Course specifically. So in the summer, my youngest son did the first tee program and just had a really good experience. And so he's caught the golf bug now. So he's had me out at Red Hawk like once a week, and they have just been so friendly and kind and just like trying to foster young kids golfing. And Monday, there was like a 90-minute wait to get on the course. It was so busy. So they're doing an excellent job out there, and I wanted to show them some appreciation.
Thank you. Alderman Reinhardt.
Thank you. Just want to let folks know that September 12th, we'll be holding the 8th Ward meeting from 6 to 7:30 at the Eastern Avenue Library. All are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderwoman Lynch.
Thank you. So just in light of what Alderman Griff mentioned about the meeting the candidates on Monday evening, coincidentally also falls in the same second Monday, that our usual 7th Ward meetings are typically at 5:30 at the new Fire Station number 3. So in light of that, we will be canceling this month's meeting. And Alderman Grip, just real quick, can you just share the time, the specific time and location of the meeting? I believe it's at the Putnam Museum, no?
Sorry, it is 5 to 7 p.m. at the Figge Art Museum in the Grand Lobby,
Thank you.
Monday, September 9th.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Kelly.
I'm sorry, I forgot to say this. One of the greats from Rock Island passed away today. If anybody is familiar with Virgil Mayberry, he was a big political figure in the Quad Cities for years, and I forgot to give him, he was my moment of silence, but I definitely wanted to bring to everybody's attention, we lost Virgil Mayberry this morning, so thank you for speaking again.
Yep, thank you. Anyone else? Very good. Okay, we'll move to the 4 areas of discussion: community development, public safety, public works, and finance. The first is community development. Alderman Grip and Alderman Reinhardt will discuss. Alderman Grip, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Item number 1 is a second consideration ordinance for case REZ 24-03, being the request of the Davenport Community School District to rezone approximately 12.71 acres of land located at 715 through 909 East 36th Street from R3 Single Family and 2 Family Residential District to SIC Institutional Campus District. Is there anyone from the public here to comment on this item? Anyone from the council? Seeing no one, I had mentioned this last week, but there has been no public response to this at any of the public meetings, and it's a pretty low threat. So my recommendation is that we suspend the rules next week and pass this on second consideration so the school district can get moving on relocating their bus barn there. It's holding up the Brady Street Stadium renovations that they're doing for the Davenport Central Athletics. So I would like to have that listed on the agenda next week as a motion to suspend the rules and pass on second consideration. And with that, I'll ask Alderman Reiners to please set our agenda.
Thank you. I make a motion to keep this item on discussion.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Are there any opposed? Our agenda has been set. Back to you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Alderman Grip and Alderman Reinhardt. Next area is public safety. Alderman Jobson and Alderman Tim Dunn to discuss. Alderman Jobson, please.
Thank you. First item on the public safety agenda is a resolution approving street, lane, and public ground closure requests and the listed dates and times for outdoor events. I'll read each of these before asking for comment. First, Jason Denoyer, TBK, Quad Cities Marathon, 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. Sunday, September 22nd, 2024. Closures: Riverfront Trail from East City limits to Gaines Street, Beiderbecke Drive from Gaines Street to Marquette Street, Gaines Street south of River Drive from Brown Street to Scott Street, Western Avenue from West 2nd Street to River Drive, eastbound West 2nd Street from Centennial Bridge / Gaines Street to Western Avenue. Next, Tiffany Cannon Motor Row Fall Festival downtown, 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, September 22nd, 2024. Closure, East 2nd Street from Perry Street to Iowa Street. Next, Davenport Community School District Central High School Homecoming Parade, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Thursday, September 26, 2024. Closures, police controlled. East 18th Street from Woodland Avenue to Fernwood Avenue. Fernwood Avenue from East 18th Street to Forest Road. Forest Road from Fernwood Avenue to Middle Road. Middle Road from Forest Road to Woodland Avenue. Next, St. Paul the Apostle Back to School Block Party, 1007 East Rushholme Street, 12 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. Saturday, September 28, 2024. Closure, East Rushholme Street from Cary Avenue to Arlington Avenue. Next, Samantha Dinkman Halloween Party, 3300 block of Adams Street, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Saturday, October 12, 2024. Closure to Adams Street from East 33rd Street to 3326 and 3327 Adams Street. And last, Laura Lade, Hey MS, Take a Walk, Bechtel Park, 499 East 2nd Street, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Sunday, October 13, 2024. Closure, Iowa Street from River Drive to East 2nd Street. Is there anyone from public wishing to comment on any of these items? Anyone from council? Seeing none, that item move on. Item number 2, motion approving noise variance request on listed dates and times for outdoor events. I'll read each of these before asking for comment. First, Palmer College of Chiropractic Homecoming, 1000 Brady Street, approximately 8:30 p.m. for 20 minutes. Saturday, September 21, 2024, fireworks over 50 dBA. Next, Tiffany Cannon, Motor Row Fall Festival, downtown, 2 p.m. to 7 p.m., Sunday, September 22nd, 2024, outdoor music band over 50 dBA. Next, Davenport Community School District, Central High Homecoming Parade, with the parade route listed online, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m., Thursday, September 26th, 2024, outdoor music band over 50 dBA. Is there anyone from the public wishing to come in on any of these items? Please step to the podium, name, award, and then please specific as to the item.
Yeah, Gary Eklund, and I want to specifically address Palmer College of Chiropractics. And I'll try to be brief here, but Palmer, I believe, has been a very extremely irresponsible citizen of the city of Davenport. They have bought up and demolished much-needed housing. And one of the things
Mr. Eklund, this is regarding the homecoming parade. It has absolutely nothing to do with
Well, I'm
past
asking-
practice. Stick to the homecoming parade.
I'm
and that's it.
asking you to deny permits for everything that Palmer does because of Palmer's bad behavior. Palmer has behaved badly. Palmer takes advantage of the city. Palmer, like St. Ambrose, which I'm going to address again in a minute, came up with this idea 15, 20, 30 years ago when Rogalski was...
Point of order, Your Honor, this is about a license. Point of order.
This is about a specific individual who is asking for a license, and I'm addressing the conduct. If a bar asked for a license and they had 25 police calls, you would talk about their police calls as a contributing factor whether or not you just give them their license. I am talking about contributing factors as to whether or not they deserve their license. And I believe that as bad corporate citizens buying up and demolishing housing and not paying their fair share of taxes, they don't deserve this. One of the things that I was just starting to try to address, which they don't want to address, there's a policy and a practice. When I was a teenager, Palmer students lived in private housing. Either they owned homes, they lived in rentals, but they lived in housing in the city. Those houses, either their landlords or their parents or their themselves, they paid property taxes, and those property taxes supported the city. Not only does Palmer not pay property taxes, where they bought up and demolished these houses, they've established not-for-profits, which doesn't mean not-for-profit, it just means we're called the not-for-profit. And those do not pay city taxes. They do not pay property taxes, which means everybody else subsidizes all of those residents. So anybody who comes from South Africa or Australia or Canada and they rent from a not-for-profit to go to Palmer, they don't pay a penny for services, but the police come when they call. Every Palmer student gets better police protection than I do. That man can tell you. They get better, if Palmer calls, police cares. I mean, if somebody renting a room as a
Mr. Chair.
Palmer resident.
Mr. Eklund,
Yes, sir.
stick to the specific license. I've given you way more leeway than I really
Yes,
care
sir.
to.
Yes, sir.
You'd better be served by keeping it short and sweet. Less said, the better.
I'm sorry, I'm a little stressed today. I've been burglarized, and part of the reason why I was burglarized is because my solar lights were all destroyed and my yard is dark. And I'm very, very stressed. I've been burglarized. There are people in my house, and they probably had a baseball bat and a gun, and they've been in my house. I'm extremely stressed. So pardon me if I'm not as organized or quite as disorganized the same way as I usually am. And I blame that man for destroying my solar light to make
Mr.
my
Eklund,
life more
sit down.
dangerous.
Sit down, you're done.
Mr. Eklund, sit down.
Mr. Eklund, you're done.
I'm here to speak for Palmer. I did work for the homecoming events many years in a row. They are the finest, greatest people I have ever worked for. I enjoyed every minute of it. The alcohol that they did serve, I was serving beer outside in a very small area. We opened up the beer cans so that they could not be taken anywhere else. I saw the fireworks display. It was extremely well done, very professional. These are some of the nicest people I've ever met. I am a person who receives services from Palmer because of the fact that I'm poor, because I'm disabled and can't do very much. And I can't say enough about how good Palmer is. I've been associated with him in many, many different ways over many, many decades. They are just a very great asset to Davenport, and I'm trying to get them to see if they can start using the Davenport City Bus. I'm slowly trying to get some of the students in on that, and Thank you, and I feel absolutely great today.
Anyone else from public wishing to comment on any of these items? Anyone from council? Seeing none, that item move on. Item number 3, motion approving beer and liquor license applications. I'll read those under Section A, new license, new owner, temporary permit, temporary outdoor area location, transfer, et cetera. First, Midwest Festivals, 2200 West River Drive, temporary event, September 28, 2029. License type Class C liquor on premises. Next, Quad City Arts, 2205 East 11th Street, temporary outdoor event, September 20th to 21st. License type Special Class C beer, wine on premises. And then Crown Smoke and Vape, 4810 Elmore Avenue, Suites E through F, new license, license type Class E liquor, carry out. And then we have those items under Section B, annual license renewals, which I will not read, but are there for your review. Is there anyone from public wishing to comment on any of these items? Please step to the podium, name, ward, and stick to the topic.
Yep,
please.
Gary Eklund, I will be very brief this time if you guys let me finish. I want to address specifically St. Ambrose. I used to go to lots of stuff at St. Ambrose. I have nothing against St. Ambrose per se, not the students, but I believe that they also have been extremely irresponsible corporate citizens and that they do not deserve the positive benefits of extra special privileges from the city. And one of them, there's one that I will not get into tonight, which will become public eventually, which is major. But one of the things that they have done is, in their goal to maximize their financial profits, they have bought up and demolished housing, much needed housing, and they bought it up, and the minute before they purchase it, there's property tax paid. The minute after they purchase it, there's no property taxes paid. And one of the things that they did to maximize their own financial profits, even though they're not for profit, I think, or last I knew.
Point of order, this is about a liquor license, whatever the feeling about the organization.
Okay.
This is about granting a liquor license or a permit for noise. That's what this is about tonight.
I have heard the alderwoman talk numerous times about police calls to bars. Those are relevant to whether or not you give a bar a license. And the behavior of a corporate citizen is relevant to whether or not you give that corporate citizen a liquor
This is
license.
about a liquor license. I would ask that this.
I'm trying to address the
be
liquor
brought to an
license.
end.
Mr. Eklund, please get from point A to point B very quickly.
I would have been finished by now if I wasn't interrupted.
We'll see if we can do that.
What they have done is they have went from private housing that pays property taxes to dorms where they collect all the money and they don't pay property taxes, but they get fire department services, police services, every other services, and the people who would otherwise be living in those homes are homeless or they have to go buy $1 million house out north. A bad corporate citizen should not get extra privileges, and they have been bad corporate citizens by buying up and demolishing housing and capturing for
Mr.
themselves.
Eklund, I'd be very careful. I'm not an attorney, but I would say you're pretty close to slandering and defaming a lot of people and organizations.
Well,
Make a point, just be done.
Let me say that, when I say something, I don't mean to defame anybody, but the simple fact of the matter is they bought up private housing, they demolished that housing, and they built dorms, which they now collect the money for. And those properties do not pay property taxes to the city, but they get fire services and they get police services, but they don't pay property taxes. So I pay my tax money to get police services.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Eklund, you made your point, you're done, sit down.
Kids from Chicago who go to
Mr.
for police
Eklund,
protection, but they get it.
sit down.
Sit down, please. Thank you.
Anyone else from council have any?
Mr. Eklund, please refrain from disturbing the meeting in the back. Thank you.
Anyone else from public, I should say? Seeing none, anyone from council? Seeing none, I would ask Alderman Tim Dunn to please set our agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to put all items of public safety on the consent agenda. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign. That closes public safety. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Jobson and Alderman Rick Dunn. Tim Dunn. Next there is Public Works, Alderman Rick Dunn and Alderman Kelly, please. Alderman Rick Dunn.
Thank you, Your Honor. Item number 1 is a resolution accepting sanitary sewer and manholes associated with the St. Ambrose University Cosgrove Hall Building addition. Is there anyone in the public wishing to address this item? Council? Seeing none, this item will move on. Item number 2 is a resolution accepting sanitary sewer and manholes associated with the Corporate Park Townhomes development. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item?
I swear I will be very, very brief.
Mr. Eklund, and before you speak here, this has nothing to do with sewer fees. This is just accepting a project that another entity has paid for. We're just saying that they did this project correctly. So if you have anything,
I'll sit down, you got where I'm going. I think I'm asking you, I'm asking all 10 of you, all 11 of you, to make a plan to put the sewers back on the property taxes where it used to be, and I'll sit down. Thank you.
thank you. Anyone else? Council? Seeing none, this item will move on. Item number 3 is a resolution accepting the work completed under the Tremont Sanitary Sewer Interceptor Replacement Project by Langman Construction in the amount of $2,896,814.35. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item? Council? Seeing none, this item will move on. Item number 4 is a resolution accepting work completed under the Dose Splash and Play Project by the Henley Group in the amount of $535,610. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item? Council? Seeing none, this item will move on. Item number 5 is a resolution accepting work completed under the Village of East Davenport Lighting Project by Davenport Electric in the amount of $262,810.52. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item? Council? Seeing none, this item will move on. Item number 6 is a resolution accepting work completed on the multi-sports court installation project by Langman Construction in the amount of $257,663.05. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item? Council? Seeing none, this item will move on. Item number 7 is a resolution approving change order number 2 in the amount of $150,000 to Langman Construction for the 2023-2024 sewer and manhole rehabilitation program. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item? Council? Seeing none, this item will move on. And item number 8 is a resolution approving the plan, specification, form of contract, and estimated cost for the Goose Creek Trail Phase 3 project. And before I ask for any comment, I would ask Director Merritt to come up and give us a presentation on this project, please.
Good evening, Clay Merritt, Engineering and Capital Projects. So it's been a little while since we've come up before you and talked to you a little bit about this project, so I wanted to provide some context, as well as hopefully answer some questions that have come up along the way. So the map you're looking at right now is essentially our trail system as it exists today. So one of the key things you'll notice is we have a very strong east-west corridors, both on the riverfront, Duck Creek Trail, and also Northeast Davenport up on the Veterans Memorial Parkway. But what you won't notice is there's very little, or if all, connectivity from north-south. How do we connect these trail systems together? Decades of planning show that there's a strong desire within the community to do just that. Our 2 most recent ones that showcase that is Davenport Go, which is our current multimodal plan, and also our Parks and Recreation Master Plan. Since it includes our trail system, there was a strong desire for that as well. Next is ARPA. So as everyone is aware, when the federal government created the American Rescue Plan Act, funding was allocated to the city of Davenport. The mayor and council at the time directed staff, go out, seek input from the public, and then you would then prioritize those projects and create the program for staff to then implement. Based on those community surveys and input and the council's prioritization, that created this list of projects. I know we've all seen this over the last number of years. Particularly, I point this out is the second one from the bottom says multimodal north-south path, and that's for about $4 million budget. And that's the genesis of where this project comes from. Specifically, we're looking at the Goose Creek corridor, and we can connect those east-west corridors along that particular creek system. And we're doing so in multiple ways. First, the little green section there is Goose Creek Phase 1. That's roughly between 46th Street and 53rd. That project has been completed for a number of years. The blue is Goose Creek Phase 2. So that is an off-street trail that actually goes underneath 53rd, so you can safely avoid any conflict with cars or trucks. And it goes all the way to 59th Street on the east side of Brady. That project was already in the works and federal funding had already been secured by the time ARPA had been allocated to the city. Next, the goldish yellow one is the Veterans Memorial Parkway Connection. That's another city project where we receive federal funding for. This actually picks up from phase 2, stays on the east side of Brady, and then connects all the way to where you see the existing system. Starts right around Von Mar on Veterans Memorial Parkway. The idea is then at that point, you can actually get from 46th Street safely underneath 53rd, up and around into the Veterans Trail, which then actually connects at Bettendorf's trail system. Their system actually connects all the way down to the Mississippi River. So once again, so for our residents, that they can use this system. Next came Goose Creek Trail Phase 3. This is the project that's in front of you today. So this is the red that's right there. Specifically, this project will take you from the Duck Creek system and safely get you underneath Kimberly Road. One of the largest barriers we have from a multimodal connectivity perspective is how do we successfully and safely cross one of the largest, if not the largest traveled road in the city that's obviously a state highway. We can do so at Eastern Avenue, at the Eastern Avenue Bridge. And you can safely go underneath that bridge, once again, avoiding conflict between pedestrians or cyclists and motor vehicles. And so you can see the alignment of the road, alignment of the trail as it then connects up to 46th Street. So in the end, once completed, if approved, you can then go from the Duck Creek system all the way up, safely underneath Kimberly Road, safely underneath 53rd Street, all the way to Veterans Memorial Parkway. But right now I want to focus a little on that section in the red. Let's see if this works. Oh, it does. So right here on the Adams Street corridor. So we have had some communications with those residents. Once the city council approved that, we hired a engineering design firm that does these style projects to design it for us. This wasn't designed by city staff. And in particular, what we have here is 3 main concerns. One, and I know this was recently brought up, did we take any land or do we need to take residential property from people in order to construct the project? The answer is no. So this is actually snippets from the engineering drawings. And you can see, and I know it's kind of hard to see from far away, but the property lines for the residential properties is here. Anything north of that, or in this case, if we're looking at it correctly, on the west side, that's city property. So that's all city right of way. So no land is actually needed to be able to construct the project. You will see in this kind of shaded out area is the creek system as it currently exists today, as it goes up and over. And this is where we come into, we can actually realign the creek to create that room, but also create that, that buffer between what's currently there right now with the residents and the creek being close to a lot of their homes. Next, one of the issues was flood insurance. Currently right now, there's kind of 2 processes running, and I know that it can be confusing, absolutely, as we go through these things. So first off is an independent FEMA process. So earlier this year, you were essentially, or the city was essentially required to adopt new FEMA flood insurance rate maps, and this is for citywide. So not in particular one area, this is for the entire city this affected everyone. And this resulted in raising the 100-year flood elevations in multiple areas, which includes the Adams Street corridor. Process began in 2020, before this project was even contemplated as part of the ARPA process, or before ARPA was truly passed by Congress. Next is the City Trail project. So as part of this project, we have performed, or our consultant has performed, hydraulic modeling to ensure the DNR no rise criteria is met. I know there's some questions about the modeling. This is the same modeling that FEMA itself performs. So because it has to pass their standards. It's difficult to give people confidence in modeling other than to say it's the same process that FEMA uses. So we have a standardized system here. Next, we submitted a U.S. Army Corps of Engineers 404 permit, and it's been approved. So it's gone through the Corps system, and it's been approved. Next, we are now working with FEMA on changing those 100-year flood elevation maps. Because our project has to have no rise, we're actually, so that we don't cause additional flooding concerns is what you're trying to avoid. And so we've met that, and we're actually working with FEMA on changing those recently approved maps. It will actually slightly lower the flood elevations. Now, when I say lower, it's by a very, very small percentage. Probably upwards, at the highest point, it's the bridge underneath, or the underpass underneath Kimberly. It's probably by 3 inches at the most, and then it tapers down all the way to 33rd. Next comes privacy. So included within the project is the installation of 6-foot-tall arborvitae along the trail system, specifically in this corridor. So, and then once mature, these trees are expected to grow up to approximately 25 feet tall in height. These trees are going to be maintained and owned by the city of Davenport. That's not the homeowner's responsibility. That'll be the city's responsibility to take. A couple other things I noticed when I was taking notes. Budget issues, I'm unaware of any budget issues with this particular project. The consultant that we have has provided us the construction cost estimate. I'm always hesitant before we go out to bid on something, but we are on budget as we move forward. And then I know there's a question about the Walgreens property just to the, you can't quite see it, but if you could, it's probably right around here. The Walgreens property, we actually had an amicable resolution with them. Condemnation was not needed for that process. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I know we also have additional staff here who can help answer any specific questions as regarding to flood or any type of engineering related questions. So thank you for the time.
Thank you. With that, is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item?
Gary Eklund, I'll just be real quick. One thing that jumps out at me was when they said changing the flow of the creek, redesigning the creek. I think that's always a bad idea. Water is going to go where water is going to go, and I'm sure you can channel it, but it just seems to me like that just sounds like a bad idea.
Thank you. Next.
Donald Stevens Jr. of Bettendorf. When you get projects like this, you got to come out and you got to be able to support them because I think they're amazing for our community because it allows people that work in the Elmore corridor, like at the casino, Walmart, and other, that don't have vehicles that would walk or ride a bicycle, be able to, after hours, if they can't take a city bus, they'd be able to utilize a trail like this. My only thought would be possibly looking at getting lighting up in that area and possibly, you know, some sort of camera system to make sure that if anything happens to someone that's, you know, utilizing such a trail after a certain period of time because somebody wants to have negative plans on harming someone, it can be caught because there's been people that have been assaulted on the normal bicycle trail that goes east-west. So I think that lighting is an important thing, but I think this is an amazing project. And I would suggest anybody that lives in this community should support projects like this. So I think it's amazing. Just wanted to tell you that.
Next, please.
Good evening, everyone. Jerry Scalick, 6th Ward. I'm a strong proponent of the Goose Creek North-South connector. I think it's very important to do that. I also think the connector out Emice and north-south out that way is important too. Only question on the north-south Goose Creek, are there any plans to improve access to that connector across Eastern Avenue? Like the controlled ability at Duck Creek to cross Eastern Avenue, are there any plans, particularly north of Kimberly and south of 53rd, to make that Goose Creek accessible across Eastern Avenue, at least in a safe way? You certainly couldn't do it under the current conditions. So that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Council. Alderwoman McGinnis.
Thank you for that. It's very exciting. It's not in 3rd Ward, but I support things all across the city, and I certainly support this. I did have, there were some questions asked, and so I will ask them. If there is any plan for lighting, if there are any plans for cameras, and the safe crossing that the gentleman suggested, those were the 3 that I noted. Can someone answer those questions? Thank you.
So for lighting, the answer is no. We're not looking for any particular lighting. That was also one, if you're in the residential portion of this, we want to make sure that we are respectful of those neighbors that are adjacent to the trail. Camera system is the same. And then a crossing. So there is a Goose Creek Phase 4 that would actually try to, and it's in our, we are able to get a grant, I believe it's 3 years out before the grant is available. And it actually takes you on the west side of Eastern ducks underneath the southern sister bridge of Goose Creek over Eastern, goes to the east side. It actually picks up the trail system from the apartment complex on that side, and then ducks underneath the northern sister bridge on Eastern, and then picks back up to this trail system. So yes.
Anything else? Alderwoman McGinnis, anything else? Okay, Alderwoman Lynch.
Thank you, and Director Merritt, if you could please join us again up here. I apologize. I am wondering if there, so currently, is there a plan in place to mitigate or erosion? So I know that erosion's a constant issue that we face with our creek lines. I do know that there are some properties that are especially close to some of these creek lines. Is there in this plan, and I understand that you said that the FEMA, it should, the flood rate should go down just a little bit, but what is the long-term plan for erosion in that area?
So I think one of the things that'll be the benefit from the project is actually, as part of this, is cleaning up that creek system. So this is comment generally throughout our system is over time, we get a lot of debris that's built up, that, a lot as the creeks meander themselves through, they are not able to appropriately flow. And so cleaning all of this up along with realigning it to straightening it out, should help through that flow process. In terms of long-term maintenance, we'll have to take a look at that from a citywide perspective.
So what I'm hearing you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that in theory, with the bike path being there, it would bring more attention, more care to that area to make sure
Correct.
that we don't have any long-term issues.
I think that is fair.
Okay, excellent. Why no cameras? Is that just something that wasn't a discussion, or is that something we could entertain if?
I will defer to our Parks and Recreation Director, only because I'll look to him to make sure I'm not speaking out of turn, only because the trail system is their domain. But I am not aware really of any cameras specifically on any of our trail systems. He says no. So that would be a new thing, and so more than likely we would, if that is proposed, we may bring that in front of the City Council, because once again, we don't have anywhere else.
I think I'd be interested to know the crime rate on our bike trails and to see if there is a need for that. And maybe it's something we explore citywide. I know, of course, that's a money thing, but that's a conversation we can have down the road. And then just one more very basic question. How long does it take for the abrevieties to mature?
Let me get back to you. I don't want to say anything incorrectly.
From
They
6
are
feet to 25.
They are a fast-growing species. One of the ideas is when we initially plant them, they'll be 5 foot from center. So you'll have tree, and then you allow them to grow out. I would assume a couple years before they truly take hold, but I will happy to get back to you on that.
Thank you. And I did say that was my last question, and I apologize, but I did have just one more quick one. And historically, you might not know the answer to this, and I'm not expecting any answer right now, but historically, have we ever manipulated a creek line? And if we have there been any negative effects to the residents that would sat adjacent to the creek line? And if you don't have that answer now, I just would like that at some point. And thank you so much for your time.
Anyone else? Seeing none, this item will move on. Item number 9 is a resolution approving the plan specification, former contract, and estimated cost for the Emice Park Phase 2 Adaptive and Inclusive Playground Project. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item?
Usually I'm here up criticizing stuff, and I haven't seen the plans for this specifically, but I want to take the chance to praise something good, especially since most of what I do is complain about stuff that I'm not happy with. To see any kind of adaptive equipment where children and adults even can get out and use the playgrounds like so-called normal people or people without physical or developmental or other disabilities. So I don't know exactly what kind of adaptive playground equipment or park equipment is going in there. But the fact that the city is spending some amount of money on the percent of its citizens that are not fully mentally or developmentally or physically capable in the same way that lots of people are is a good thing. And I spent a good part of my life working with people with physical and developmental disabilities. Don't get paid much doing that, and don't get a lot of respect, but you know, it's important work. And there are a lot of children who are born who can't see, who can't hear, who can't walk, and yet they should be able to use the parks just like everybody else. So I actually wanted to, I didn't really want to get up again, I don't want to, but I'm like, you know, there's something that I want to praise. And since I'm normally complaining, why don't I get up and praise it? And like I said, I have no idea whether, I didn't look at the amount of money, I have no idea whether this is a big thing or a little thing, whether it's a great thing or a good thing. But at the bare minimum, anything that includes the words inclusiveness is a good thing. So I wanted to get up and praise something that I have a chance to praise. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Alderman Grip.
Thank you. I just wanted to recognize that we continue to lead the way in inclusive play. It's one of the things, when I ran for the first time almost 10 years ago, it wasn't something I campaigned on, but it is something that we have done so well in the city of Davenport over the last 9 years. And this going into EMIS is awesome. What we have at Vanderveer is awesome. Bringing that first wheelchair swing into the Quad Cities was a great addition, having the Miracle Field. And then I know aspects of Main Street Landing are inclusive, although not all of the play features are, obviously with the tower. But building inclusivity into our parks has been something we've really done well over the last decade. So I want to recognize that and thank the Parks Department for continuing to drive that. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Grip. Anyone else? Seeing none, this item will move on. Item number 10 is a resolution approving the plan specification, form of contract, and estimated cost of the Main Street Landing project. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item? Please step forward.
Judith Lee, Second Ward. Based on my previous comments that I made, as well as that there has not been a go, no-go decision on this park, I would at least request that you put this on discussion tonight and perhaps even consider tabling it for a while. I'm going to make some additional comments that I think are important. Quinlan Court, the city states the new park would activate Quinlan Court. Since Steve Aarons left, the court has been barely used and not at all the last couple of years except for occasional parking. It's only accessible from the park at either end of the park. The fence, the berm, the tracks block any access from any other point, which would make it inconvenient to use the court for anything other than parking at $2.3 million cost. It's a lovely and wasted space now. It will continue to be wasted even with the park. Parking. Assuming the park gets a level of use the city expects, what the parking capacity needed, what is the parking, considering current levels of use for businesses, residences, Adler River Center, fishing, and current recreational uses? How far will people actually walk to get to the park with kids, bicycles, food, and how will this impact the current parking in the downtown area? Even the casino depended on valet parking because people would not use the Sky Bridge or off-site parking to access it. Please do not use the parking that was conducted in 2019. It's already been debunked based on faulty assumptions, poor to no on-site reviews, data collection conducted while downtown was actually flooded, and other inappropriate methodologies. Also, fencing. The overpass would be 25 to 30 feet off the ground because it has to be 25 feet above the tracks themselves, and the tracks are raised 6 feet. What safety features are incorporated to ensure that people cannot jump or throw things from the overpass? And I don't see any lighting for that overpass either. The playground and water feature. What exactly is the water feature? An at-ground spray park, running or standing water? The water feature at K-Square, which is simply ground level misting, hasn't been in operation for several years, yet the city thinks it can operate some level of water feature in this park. The towers are enclosed and 30 feet tall. Would it attract homeless people or people considering criminal activities where they need to be hidden from eyesight? And especially with a bathroom and water readily available. The fountain at the natatorium is already a congregation location. I am concerned along, you made the comment, Alderman Dunn, about ADA. I'm concerned about ADA here. I don't think there's enough, and there's a whole lot of stairs. And even the hills, if there's ramps, you still have to have a low slope to be able to use them. What are the components of the hillside play elements? Are they near the railroad tracks above the operating trains? Fences only work to separate people from trains at ground level, not from higher elevations. The flexible multi-use and ice rink. Pickleball courts, as I said earlier, each must have a tall fence, usually protected from the wind, for each court, not for the courts as a whole. None are visible in the drawings. Fences are helpful at sand volleyball courts also. With the necessary fencing, it'd be almost impossible to modify pickleball courts to volleyball, and impossible to make an ice rink without expensive removal and installation of fences at every change. How will the sand beach be installed, removed, cleaned up, and tipped at the landfill? Do people really want a sand beach? How can the ice and sand be removed without damaging or destroying the pickleball courts underneath? Since the park will be open at night, I don't see appropriate lighting in the drawings. Will the ice rink depend on natural snow, rain, and freezing, or will special underground and freezing piping be required? Who's responsible for keeping the ice rink free of snow? Will the city provide skate rentals? Will it compete with River's Edge rinks? There's a lot of questions. We don't have information. You're asking to vote on letting a contract. The contract scope is not clear, and yet we've never had a go, no-go on this. And you do not have enough information at this point. I beg you, please put this on discussion and consider tabling this until you get the information you need to make this decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Here, Eklund, I'll try to be quick. I want to agree with everything she just said and say that, one, there's probably not enough information, but two, I just think that the entire idea is bad, especially at this point in the city's history. It would have been my preference if the city had been taken over and put into federal administration for a while and every department head named from outside. Because we have needs that are not being addressed. This money could be spent on low-income housing. We have a crisis in housing. You could purchase and give away how many homes for the amount of money that are being spent on this project? It seems to me an extreme waste without the benefits to enough of the city to justify the expenditures. And certainly, as she pointed out, there should be more information and more discussion before agreeing on anything. And I just think that this is a passion project of certain individuals who want to see this money spent in this way because they like it, but it doesn't really benefit the majority of the citizens in a similar way to Change in the One Ways wasn't supported by the people. I think that you should be doing stuff that benefit the people. This amount of money could be put into low-income housing. You could literally purchase or build or give away houses or subsidize housing for poor people the way we subsidize housing for rich people. I'll sit down. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I just have a couple questions. I haven't looked, LaShawna Dixon, 7th Ward. I haven't looked into this because I think this is just crazy to be able to spend this amount of money into a flood zone area. So I'm not going to act like I paid a lot of attention. However, my question is, you're going to put a sand beach on the Mississippi River. So is this sand beach going to be able to get people into the river? The Mississippi River is not exactly safe. As we know, there's people that have drowned in this river because from what I understand, it acts like a tornado and goes down. So how are you going to protect the citizens from that? And another question is ice skating ring. If somebody falls and breaks their leg, is the city responsible for that? That's another good question too. Hopefully somebody can get some information back to me on that because it's a safety hazard. To me, I hear a safety hazard. You know, the river is not safe.
Y'all could have spent this money doing a lot more. All you have to do is walk a block up and down here and there's homeless sitting out. Now, I know before I get point of order, we have a lot more things to do than worry about some adventure park down by the flood zone. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Council? Alderwoman Burkholder.
Thank you. I do think this needs to be put on discussion. I think we need to really discuss the safety. We're going to have a possible ice skating rink. We already have River's Edge. Just the safety and the maintenance. I've personally been down to the river, and just recently, I have a lot of questions, and this park is going to add to those if we can't take care of what we already have. That's all.
Thank you. Alderwoman McGinnis.
Thank you, Alderman Grip. Perhaps we should get some questions out of the way. There were a few asked. And I don't know who would be the best person to talk about the features. Would that be Mr. Merritt? Is there a new boat landing here? Are we docking yachts?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so that old ramp will stay, the one that people pull their fishing boats in, so people can still do that.
Yes.
And there is going to still be the fishing area for the people who go and fish?
Yes.
Okay, great, because they're down there a lot. That's what I see down there. Yeah, they're the most frequent users of what's there now. Is the sand beach connected to the river? Good question.
No, it is not.
Okay.
So it'll be located on the multi-use space. And that is just an example that was pulled from previous planning documents that got quite a bit of public input. So it doesn't have to be a sand beach that's provided there. It can be completely something else. Our hope and desire was to show you that that space can be used for a multitude of purposes. I'm assuming the Riverfront Commission will probably would love to have a say in how that's programmed over time to help generate users of the space.
There was another question about liability of an ice rink. Now, we have ice rinks, and you may not be the person to answer this. I can put that for somebody else, but is there any more liability for this ice rink than there would be for the ice rinks that we have, the indoor ice rinks that we have? Okay, thank you. So no more liability than that. Could you talk a little bit about we heard about the wonderful, the inclusive features at EMICE. Could you talk a little bit about what those will be for this park?
Sure. So the play features itself, or the adventure play area. So we actually have an ADA ramp, that's ADA accessible going into the play tower itself. So we wanted to make sure that that was a key part of the project. Along with all the other features in the play area, so in particular the water feature. So that is an area where anyone can be able to access that particular place. Okay. So we have a multitude of areas, and we also ensure that any of the internal circulation paths also are ADA accessible, that the pedestrian bridge is ADA accessible, then it meets appropriate slopes.
Now, we all know that this area floods, or part of this area floods, so what is the plan for the hardscape features, because there'll be lots of grass and all of that as well, but what's the plan for that?
Sure. So in terms of hardscape features, one of the things that we've done is, one of the strategies rather, is a lot of the higher dollar value areas, if I can say that, are actually where they're becoming elevated out. So I'll use that adventure play surface. Most of that is to that River Stage 2021 stage. So if we would reach the flood that we received this year, most of that surface doesn't get any water. Now, obviously, we're not going to encourage people to walk out into the middle of a flood saying, hey, get on the pedestrian bridge and walk out there. We want everyone to stay safe. From a city perspective, and I know Nicole probably would do this from a public works perspective, is we don't prefer people anywhere near the flood when it happens. only for safety reasons. You know, we've had issues where a manhole lid will pop off or something, but if you're in a few inches of water and you're walking around and you don't see it, that's a safety hazard. So when flooding is happening, we generally ask people to stay away for their own benefit.
But as long as the access to the raised area is accessible,
If it is
then
accessible.
that's a viewscape also.
That's correct. However, we will get to a certain point
Right,
where
sure.
parts of the park may not be underwater, but access to the park itself may be closed off, once again, just for safety purposes.
And I guess the last thing, and I'll be quiet, the money, there's conversation about we could use it for this, we could use it for that, but could you explain the funding of this? And
Yes.
what it's, the specific money for this park?
Yes, so this is primarily from a city perspective. We have two different funding sources. So we have ARPA, so we kind of saw with the Goose Creek Trail, that was the list that the city council had approved. So they had set money aside specifically for this. Obviously, that has restrictions onto itself that's set by essentially Congress. And then the other one is from CP mitigation funding. So it's what the city council had a negotiation with Canadian Pacific Kansas City before that merger went through to be used on mitigation. So mitigation is something like a pedestrian bridge or quiet zone. That's the city funding. The rest of it is either through grants for the state of Iowa that's specifically for this project. So you just, through this scenario, if the city council decides not to move forward with this project, then that money, that I believe it's upwards to $9.6 million, that essentially goes back to the state of Iowa. That's not allowed for us to use in any other areas or any other purposes. They specifically gave it to us for this reason. Same with RDA and SCRA as well.
Okay, so, and the design, the general design of this, which has been worked on for almost 20 years now, this discussion has been, at least I've been involved for 20 years, was submitted to the state of Iowa for this funding process that they have, right? So,
Yes.
And that project is gone. It's not something that comes back every year, correct?
Correct. So if I got that correctly, the state of Iowa's funding source is kind of a one-time funding source. They don't regularly fund these type of projects every year or any number of years.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Grip.
Thank you, Alderman Dunn. So I wanted to, I don't think I have any questions for you. I wanted to go through some of that too. So, right, there is no boat ramp. This is not a park for the rich. This is a park for everyone. In fact, the reason why it was selected is it is in the lowest income census tract in the city of Davenport. The riverfront is for everyone and it is free to visit. And if you go to the riverfront, you will see everyone is down there. It's one of the great things about it. All people from Davenport go down and enjoy the riverfront for free. We're currently spending over $800,000 a year for a ballpark that is not for everyone. There are many people in our community who can't afford to go to it. This park, everyone will be able to go to it. But breaking down the funding, you hear this is a $24 million park. It is not, okay? So for one thing, approximately $3.5 million out of the 24 is a private thing for the Figge and lighting up the Figge that they raised $2.5 million from private donors and then got a little bit over $1 million from the state of Iowa. So $3.5 million is going to the Figge. It's not going to the park. Remember that in the middle of this park, or the CP funding that is going into this park is for quiet zones that are across the entire Davenport riverfront, okay? So that's $3.5 to $4 million that is not specific to this park. It is across the entire riverfront. You also have the bridge, okay? The walkway that provides emergency access to the south side of the railroad track that is going into Main Street Landing, but has to be somewhere based on the conversations and negotiations we had with CP Rail, because we need to have emergency access to the south side of the tracks, okay? So I can't remember exactly how much that bridge is, but it's an expensive bridge as part of the project. So really, the park portion of it is not $24 million. The idea that, this is rushed or hasn't been voted on is wild to me because it's literally been in our budget since 2016. I would imagine we voted on this more than a dozen times in different ways. So this is something that we've been going at for a long time. I am going to say something about the sand. I was at the public input meeting in 2014 when I was just citizen grip, and it got into that plan, and I don't know how, but I don't see any way that they are going to bring in sand and put it down on that plate. I just don't see it happening. So, but it made it into this one as well. So anyways, as we've been going through this for a long time, the council has had serious concerns. And this is one of the reasons, if you ask Alderman Jobjan how he went from totally opposed to supportive of this, is we took all of the concerns and we worked through them. Okay, the funding issue. How are we going to fund this out of capital? Okay, you're taking away from roads and sewers. That was the argument. It's a good argument when you're in Davenport, right? And we know we have to fix our roads and sewers. We funded this with $0 out of our capital budget. $0. Okay, the issue with flooding. Okay, flood resiliency. We built this park so that it will flood, the assets are protected, and then the flood goes down. We used HR Green, literally the same company that built our comprehensive flood mitigation system was on this project, okay? And we're not new to this, by the way. Go down to Centennial Park, go down to the spray ground. That was surrounded by water, but the asset itself, there are pictures, was above the river and was not affected by it. It's the same exact concept. And by the way, if you go to any major riverfront park in the Midwest or in the country, they're built to be flood resilient. The water comes up, the water goes down, and operations continue. The trains, obviously, we worked through the noise issues by going to quiet zones, and we've designed it in a thoughtful way for entrances and how you get there. And then the maintenance. And I know that the council, this still has concerns about how are you going to maintain it. This is the first, not just parks, but even public works project that's come forward where we actually came forward with a way that we're going to fund maintenance long-term, and that was a request. Now, some of you think it's too much, some of you think it's too little, but it is literally the first time that we've come forward with the project and said, we understand that this project needs maintenance and we're going to fund it, okay? So what I would say is this. We all understand that right, the United States is just deferred maintenance all across the country, okay? So everybody has maintenance issues. But from a Parks Department standpoint, we know that in 2008, when things got really bad, and I don't think anybody was here on the council, things got really bad, Mayor Mattson was, okay? They had to make a lot of cuts, okay? And they you guys know that a good portion of our budget is police and fire. They did not want to cut police and fire, so Parks Department took the brunt of those cuts during that time, and we've never taken them back to the funding that they had before, okay? Now, we control that. Okay, and we did a comprehensive parks master plan just a few years ago, and I went back and looked at it. There is an entire section of here is how you can do maintenance in your parks and raise money, and I think the city council needs to say, it hasn't made our priority list yet. It needs to make our priority list of saying, how do we improve this? You know, I won't get into all the options. That master plan lays out courses of action that we could take. We need to take up on some of those. The other thing is when we're specifically talking about riverfront maintenance, okay? We used to have very good riverfront maintenance, okay? The way that the riverfront was maintained was by the Levee Improvement Commission, and they were funded by businesses that operated on the riverfront. Okay, they would pay rent, that would go to the Levee Improvement Commission. The Levee Improvement Commission would do some maintenance, they would do some improvements, and over the last 20 years, mostly because we want to get a lot of these buildings out of the floodplain, we have taken those businesses off of the riverfront. okay? So we've taken away all of the revenue for the Riverfront Improvement Commission. So they don't have any money to do a lot of the things that they've done previously, okay? There's also ways to go about this in helping them be able to maintain the riverfront. We could give them money for improvements every year like we do parks development, or we could look at the model that Louisville does, which is their Riverfront Improvement Commission has the ability to go out and raise a lot of money, okay? And they have an endowment and they have a lot of people and it's worth pursuing. But what I'm saying is we've got this great project that we've been working on for 20 years, 10 years, decades. We're inside the 5-yard line. We know that we have to do maintenance. We're putting some maintenance towards it. But let's, as a council, look at how do we do maintenance in parks and on the riverfront. And I think there's some really good options out there. And that's it. Thank you.
Alderman Kelly.
Okay. I'm not gonna do the tit for tat. I want to, because a lot of things that aren't on the priority list, they're just not on the priority list. I'm just gonna hit the points of maintenance, upkeep, the cleaning, the smell, the mud. We have portions of the park right now that are still looking a mess, but we're talking about upkeep and money and stuff that we're gonna, so we're gonna add to it. We're not even cleaning and upkeeping the pieces that we have. So I'm not gonna keep kicking this can, but it's just like, this is a discussion that we're definitely gonna have to keep going, because there's a lot that you guys can paint the rainbow and make it look beautiful, but on the other side of the rainbow, there's still like, well, damn, what's that? So there's something that you still don't, that we don't see to get the full vision that a couple of you guys do see. And I'm not mad at you, but it's just like, I don't see it. So I would definitely want to make sure this stays on discussion.
Thank you. Alderwoman Newton.
Thank you, Chair. I've had a couple constituents reach out with questions regarding the park. The majority of those questions were regarding maintenance. I did meet with the Finance Committee and our acting interim administrator and request that the information be provided. I think some of the questions being asked are legitimate, good questions. Perhaps there are answers, but that I, as the public, may not know, or I, similar to the public, may not know all the answers. So I do not think it's a bad idea to keep this matter on the discussion agenda to allow for us to get those answers and the breakdown of the maintenance costs, which I know you're currently, or administrative staff is currently working on, and I would like to have that prior to it going to a vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, this item will move on. Item number 11 is a motion awarding a 3-year contract for the fire sprinkler system inspections and maintenance to Tri-State Automatic Sprinkler of Davenport, Iowa. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item?
Board. 3-year contract fire sprinkler inspection and maintenance. Now, does this include Modern Woodman? And with all due respect to Alderman Grip, the $800,000 at Modern Woodman, we just approved over $500,000 for a new turf. Earlier in the year, we approved over $1 million for a sprinkler system. Your $800,000 is just
Mr. Kelly.
not close.
Anyone else? Council. Seeing none, this item will move on. Item number 12 is a motion terminating the CY 2024 City Sidewalk Program contract with C2 Creative Concrete. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item? Council. Seeing none, this item will move on. And Alderman Kelly, would you set the agenda for us, please?
I would like to make a motion to move forward all items except for number 10 to the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. And the agenda is set. And back to you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Alderman Dunn and Alderman Kelly. The next area is finance. Alderwoman Newton and Alderwoman Lynch will discuss. Alderwoman Newton, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight we have, Alderwoman Lynch and I have 2 items on the finance agenda. The first item, third consideration, ordinance amending various sections of Chapter 6.04 entitled Animals of the Municipal Code of Davenport, Iowa, to incorporate recommendations from the Joint Task Force between the Humane Society of Scott County and the City of Davenport, and to update language regarding fees and rules. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this matter? Please state your name, ward, or address.
Cheryl Shagna, Third Ward, and I guess my big question has to do with the roles word. And prior to it having the joint task force, the city was working to bring it under the city umbrella and hire an animal control officer. And I just want to make sure that that's not a part of the roles.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please step forward.
Derek Cornett, 7th Ward. I've been hearing from people that the Scott County Humane Society is still not enforcing Davenport's regulations on dogs that bite because they don't want to see the dog harm. You know, we got to get through to them that they're working for us, that they have to enforce our laws, not what they feel like they should do. You know, this is getting ridiculous with the Humane Society. You know, biting dogs do not need to be in the public purview. I'm sorry, that's just the way I feel, and that's what the law says. So, if you guys don't get that worked out from them, you know, I don't know how it's gonna work at all. You're giving them almost $1 million a year. Why aren't they going out on these dog calls? Why are you sending the police? Send animal control. You know, that's what they're there for. Send them out looking for them. And not our police guys. They got bigger things to worry about.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public? Prior to moving on from anyone from council, I will take a point of privilege and ask if someone from staff can address the question asked regarding whether or not roles includes the city taking over animal control.
No, it's contemplated similar to how it was in the past, that it would be the city or the city's designee.
Thank you. Is there anyone from council? Alderwoman McGinnis.
Thank you, I'm so sorry. I think there was also a discussion, not that the city would take over, but there would be still, you would continue to work together. Is that correct? Can you talk a little bit about that for those who might not have been?
Correct.
part
Yep,
of that? Thank you.
that is accurate. There is a joint task force that continues to meet monthly in regards to the contract and related ordinances.
Anyone else? Seeing no one else, I do want to make two comments. The first is I want to thank Alderwoman Burkholder. She is the representative from the council on this joint task force. I want to thank her for her time and work on this matter. And then the second, I'd like to remind the public that the matter of Scott County, the Humane Society came before this council on the very first council meeting in January of this year. And what we overwhelmingly heard from the public is that they wanted the city to continue to work with Scott County Humane Society. We had a committee set to meet with them, and we were able to negotiate extending the contract for 1 year and setting up a task force to work together. So it's one step in the right direction, and I do believe that what is being set forth in front of us is what's been negotiated between not only Scott County, but city officials and representation from council. Thank you. The next item, seeing no one else from council, will be item number 2, resolution setting claim fees, annual license fees, and redemption fees under Chapter 6.04 entitled Animals of the Municipal Code of Davenport, Iowa. Is there anyone from the public wishing to address this item? Please step to the podium or lectern, state your name, ward, or address.
Gary Eklund, and I just want to say, I think the fees are too high. I do think that you know, they need money, but there should be fees, but I like everything else in this city. If you said something cost $100, it costs a lot more for a minimum wage worker than it does for a Davenport City Department head.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public? Is there anyone from council? Do not see anyone. I would like to address that question. I believe it was previously addressed, but if someone from administration could address the fees and whether or not there's anything in place for someone of limited means.
Yes, of course. So similar to all of our fees, we try to make them as commensurate with the actual cost of service as possible. These fees have not been changed in quite some time, so that is why they were being updated. And if someone does express a financial hardship, the Humane Society will work with them on those fees.
Thank you very much. That is the last item. I would be now ask Alderwoman Lynch to please set our agenda.
Thank you. Chair, I make a motion to place items number 1 and 2 on the consent agenda.
Hearing a motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. I yield the floor back to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Newton and Alderman Lynch. Next area, is there any ordinances, resolutions, or motions? Others? There are not. Is there any other reports? Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion is second. All in favor to adjourn? Aye. Any opposed? Very good. Have a good weekend. Enjoy. Go Hawks.